Welcome to the next installation of You, Me, and Adam Norris. So we are looking at uh, period 4, which is 1800 to 1844. Whoa, as usual, I can't do anything well. All right. Okay. First thing I need to do. Okay, so hey, you pause it. So that's Jefferson and Jackson. AP work can make grades seriously awful. American the world, American identity, politics, work exchange technology. So that's economics. Culture. Southern culture is going to be real important there. Can migration make grades geography, social structure awful. All right, remember all that? All right. So we're going basically goes Jefferson, War of 1812, era of good feelings stuff. So Jefferson era of good feelings, Jackson, is that the way we want to look at it? Maybe that's the way we want to look at it. We looked at it last semester, so we'll start with Jefferson. All right, election. Let's put Revolution of 1800. I almost always start with politics, I guess. All right, can't type. And he beat Adams, and it was going to be a big change because his first peaceful transfer of power from one party to the next. And so still can't type. So we know that Jefferson, the change was kind of overblown. Apparently, I accidentally hit cap blocks. So he did the Louisiana Purchase, which was kind of big government. And so he kind of conducted himself as more of a loose constructionist than a strict constructionist. So it wasn't the big change that everybody expected. He's got that inaugural address. Entangling alliances. So he's going to be like Washington, stay out of entangling alliances. I think what I'm going to try to do is just misspell every single word I type this time. All right, says, did that do it? All right, entangling alliances. What about Louisiana Purchase? So that's loose construction. So, you bought it from France, double the size of the country, is real cheap. Grants. Oh, my goodness, if I only could talk. All right, and what? There were about 4 reasons. There was no time for an amendment. It's the valley of democracy. It's the frontier. It's for the common man. And so, his theory of strict construction is his means of helping the common man. So if that means doesn't help the common man, he's going to use other means. So if loose construction, expanding the government, and the government buying a bunch of land, they'll do that too. All right. It's making the United States powerful. It's helping with isolationism. If it gets, a foreign country out of North America, it's a great deal economically. There wasn't time for an amendment. That was one thing we said, to amend the Constitution, give them the power to do it. Wasn't time for that. Okay, so Lewis and Clark went out there. That's not even the worst. It's migration. So there's Lewis and Clark and migration. And it's kind of setting up the West. All right. Other things for Jefferson. He's Democrat Republican. You're gonna have the impressment that he's gonna respond to with the Embargo Act, and that's not gonna work out. It's gonna lead to a bad economy. He's gonna have a landslide re-election because it's all common men who move out there in West. So all those electoral votes in Western states, and a Western state back then is like Kentucky, is going for Jefferson. All right. So then you got War of 1812. So you've got impressment as one cause. You've got guns to natives. Tecumseh and the Prophet are the natives there. And so, that war, you got the Star Spangled Banner, national anthem. It doesn't go well. We're fighting Canada. It doesn't go well. Misspelled yet another word. D.C. burning. All right, national anthem written after D.C. burning. Battle of New Orleans, Andrew Jackson. Okay, so the Treaty of Ghent ends the war in a tie. So then you got that era of good feelings. Uh, and, there's one party. Monroe goes and says, meets everybody. Um, we had stood up to Britain. The economy was good. Um, and so then you're going to have like what culture? Then you got those like those air of good feelings. What do you want to do? Let's go ahead and do market revolution coming out of that. Henry Clay and the American system. So the market revolution is this big change in how people are making their money. They're selling to people who live a long way away from them, maybe across the ocean, but more likely in a different part of the country, buying from folks who live a long way from them. The country specializing, so regional specialization. What do you got? The factory system. Samuel Slater. Slater. Whitney, the cotton gin. So you got those inventors. The steel plow. The steamboat, steam engine, steamboat. That steamboat will let you go up and down the river. There's a national highway. So you got these transportation improvements. Ready for me to sing to you? 15 miles on the Erie. I got a mule and her name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker. And all right, so you know all that, and it's like the culture, you always knew your neighbor, you always knew your pal. If you ever navigated on the Erie Canal, all right, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. So like the culture of it. All right, let's go Jackson. All right, so he's a Democrat. What do you want to go? Corrupt bargain. So, the vote gets split. Quincy Adams is an unsuccessful president, even though he's like against slavery and Indian removal. All right, let's go Indian removal. Court cases, Trail of Tears, Worcester versus Georgia, Cherokee versus Georgia, didn't work out. Worcester versus Georgia, Trail of Tears, that big mountain migration. They go to Oklahoma. What else you want to say about it? The guy who sold out may not have thought he was sold, may have thought he was just getting the best deal. It's very popular. John Marshall's made his decision, let him enforce it. He's kind of the opposite of Eisenhower, even though we don't have no Eisenhower. All right. Okay, what else are we going to say? All right, so you got the bank wars, right? Banks is like, see, this national bank is kind of a monopoly, is anticipating the Rockefeller years. The banks are bad for the common man. They're good for the snobby elite. He pulls all his money out, puts them in the pet banks. That makes unwise loans, so he got the panic of 1837. Nullification crisis. John C. Calhoun, that's anticipating the Civil War, because South Carolina is threatening to, it's a tax on the South. It's a tax on like slave clothes. And it just raises the prices on the South. So John C. Calhoun kind of he's got slavery on his mind. Clay saves the day. Let's go ahead and get Clay going. The Missouri Compromise after the War of 1812. At least temporarily saves the day. What, the month? Ooh, we better back that sucker up. Where are we going to put it? Right here, the Monroe Doctrine. All right, Europe needs to stay out of this part of the world. We didn't have the Navy to enforce it at the time. And so England's Navy kind of enforces it. So Roosevelt's going to update it, the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Teddy Roosevelt. All right, back to Jackson. Should have put Missouri Compromise. Let's put that right after Monroe Doctrine. Nah. All right, so we'll get rid of that. Jackson, Jackson, Jackson. Spoil system. Champion of the common man. Anybody can do this job. You ain't got to be an expert. Just got to have a sense of right and wrong. All right, so then what do you want to do? Culture. Let's do culture. So, of Jackson, Second Great Awakening. And this Great Awakening is it's a reform movement. You know, they want to make things better. So, what you got? Well, let's go Seneca Falls, women's rights. Cult of domesticity. Women were treated as property. These three ladies fought for the right to vote their whole life. We hold these truths to be self-evident that women and men are created equal. Men and women are created equal. What else do we need to say about that? I don't know. They don't. Hey, they've got to raise. Women need to raise good common men. Was the thinking that they were kind of rebelling against the cult of domesticity, and then the abolitionists. All right, utopian movements, those are fun. Shakers, Oneida, New Harmony. You know, they want to kind of cooperate with each other. They don't want things to be so rough and tumble. William Lloyd Garrison's your leading abolitionist, and so then we'll go slavery. All right, the social structure of the South. Remember, most whites didn't own slaves. 75% didn't own slaves, but that 75% wanted slaves. You know, that was kind of the Southern dream. The planters, you know, planter aristocracy, John C. Calhoun and Robert E. Lee and those folks, they just kind of run things. What are we going to say? Forms of passive resistance to slavery. You know, they work slow, they break the tools. Less likely, you know, a rebellion's going to lead to death. We'll get Nat. Ooh, and there it is, Nat Turner. So can we go back? All right, Matt Turner's rebellion was, you know, the rebellion of the time. But work slow, break the tools. Abolitionism, if we go back to abolitionism, you know, remember abolitionism kind of changed over time. It's going to be the American Colonization Society to start out with, and then maybe at Nat Turner and the Liberator, things get more radical. They want abolition right away, immediate abolition. Remember the American Colonization Society, they wanted to send, you know, they set up Liberia. So the original abolitionists were kind of planter aristocrats and abolitionists at the same time. Slavery as a necessary evil. And then by the time John C. Calhoun is going to argue that Jefferson was wrong and that slavery is a positive good. So that development of thought about slavery really kind of changes until, you know, you get real radical abolition with John Brown, but that's up in the, you know, the slavery story. Okay, well, that was kind of easy and kind of short, wasn't it? I bet so far we're at, you know, 15 minutes tops. So look at what Adam Norris has to say, and as you go farther back, these periods get kind of shorter. And let me go ahead and mention some about the AP test for those of you still decent. About 20 of you are currently signed up to take it. It lasts like 40 minutes, and it's open note. So I need to look at the format of it, exactly what the questions are going to look like. So I'll try to go ahead and do that. Maybe send you something out about that tomorrow. It's open note, but you can't cheat. You know, they've got, I mean, Big Brother's watching somehow or another. They know what you're doing. They've done practice tests and they've caught people. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So be thinking about that, but you can opt out of it. But, you know, it's fun to review whether or not you take it to remind you of all this stuff. All right, so I bet I'm in at under 15 minutes. What do you think?